store?
I probably lost it all. It'll take a little while for me to come back. That's the joy of working retail, going from retail to wholesale where you say nothing, or you speak, or you talk to people where they already know the answer.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, okay, say. And it slowly starts to delete itself and fill itself with music.
Is it more difficult wholesaling or
when it comes
retail? Because a lot of people must have a lot of questions in retail.
See, the one thing I've noticed between retail and wholesale is retail, you'll always have the new customers coming in, so you're always going to have to explain to them exactly what to do.
Over and over.
Yeah, so it becomes repetitive, but in kind of a good way. Like, I had no problem with it, but wholesale, you're already dealing with, like, majority of the people coming wholesale are already knowledgeable enough, so you don't have to explain, so you just kind of sit there for a while.
Oh, that's good. The maintenance is just the same. Which one do you like better?
In all honesty, I love working retail. Because I'm a people person, I always like helping people. So for me, you know, on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon with the fish room crowd full of people, or even a boxing day, that's what I like. That was my time.
You like to play sport. Because you're a people person and you like to be all the time in action. Hardly have except your people from here to talk.
Yeah, a lot of the times.
A
lot of times those guys are in the office, so I usually end up talking to my reflection in the glass.
Do we have any talking fish?
Unfortunately, no, not now.
There's croaking gouramis.
Yeah, we haven't had those yet. So
There's a fish called a croaking gourami.
Oh, croaking. What do they do?
They croak.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're very descriptive in this industry.
Oh, yeah.
I see that. Which kind of snails are these ones? Because they're white. They're not like the other ones that brownish. Are these saltwater, right?
These are saltwater. They're called esturia snails. They're also known as turbo snails in the industry, but they're through their Latin name. A lot of the names are derived from their Latin name, so it's esturia. They're a very good algae eater. They are saltwater. The one problem with them is you always have to watch them, because if they flip over on their back, they cannot right themselves. So that's a case where you actually have to go in and pick them up and flip them over.
Oh.
So,
well, what I do is I put them in tanks where I put lots of rubble.
Oh, so they can...
Because if you have big enough chunks, they can lever themselves over. You never put them in on fine sand. And at the store, what I do, I kept them in a bare glass tank.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like lots of algae. I left it up in the front window, and it grew a lot of algae, but that way they could grab.
But are these the ones who jump out of the tank, or are the ones who...
Luckily, I haven't heard of any cases of these climbing out of the tanks yet.
No.
I have had a couple climb out of a milk scoop, like when we're catching fish, but that's the only case I've had.
Yeah, they seem to get right up to the edge and don't go any higher.
How many of those do you need in your tank? Let's say this size.
Usually.
Which, remember, I'm not good at sizes.
The rule I've always done is usually about like 1 per gallon. I mean, the good thing about a snail compared to an invertebrate compared to a fish is they have little to no bioload. So in some cases, I've actually seen people have 3 to every gallon. So there's a guy who had, actually, I'm a good example. At one time when I had a 30-gallon reef tank, I had 90 of them in there just to keep it clean. It was in a very well-lit area, and they kept it spotless.
Okay, good. I was checking something on the back here.
Well, let's do these ones first.
Oh, yeah. These are kind of a little bit different than the other ones.
Yeah.
Because these are a little bit more cone
they're called pyramid snails. You can see they kind of get their name just from the ridges on their shell. Kind of like, you know, your ancient pyramids, just the way it looks like it's, you know, it's a bunch of miniature
the ridges are a lot less.
All laid up on them.
But they do the same thing as the other ones?
Yep.
They're very cool. They're very cool.
Which do you like better?
I prefer the estrias, because you can usually get a couple different styles of shells from them. Like I've seen some with the spikes on them and such.
Yeah, the star.
Yeah. So I've always liked the estria snails. For me, it's the estrias, and when we have nearite snails in, those are usually the 2 I always go for.
Yeah, I like nearites, especially the ones that stay underwater, because I have brought some back from Florida. They won't stay underwater at all.
I've had the case where I wake up and I'm looking at my tank because at one time at the foot of my bed was my reef tank.
Yeah.
And I'd be looking at the tank and I'm like, oh, there's a snail on the glass. And then when I go up to feed, I realize it's not on the inside, but on the outside. Yeah.
And what kind of butterfly is this?
We have these guys. They're just 4-spot butterflies.
And they're from Florida?
They're from the like Florida and the Caribbean area.
Okay.
And as you can see, they kind of get the name from not only the 2 eye spots on the back of their tail. By 2, I mean 1 on either side. But then, of course, they have their their real eyes, which also counts as a spot.
Yeah, well that way you see the predator is more likely to go for the big eye spot, thinking that's his head, and the fish has a better chance to get away.
That's one that's gonna be that brown color, or it's gonna be the
If I'm not mistaken, it'll actually stay that color when it gets larger.
Yeah, it's not one that changes from a juvenile.
Yeah.
And then in here is one that changes.
Yes, the rock beauty.
When they're tiny, I think they have a small black dot and yellow body. Yeah.
Almost full yellow and just a really small eye spot, and as they get larger, that eye spot just grows into what you see there.
And then it pretty much stays this proportion.
As an adult, it's not gonna grow more.
It will get a little bit larger, like they will usually get about 8 to 12 inches. But yeah, one of my
But the pattern stays pretty much the same.
Yeah.
We have another one here.
Yep. We've got a couple of them. We usually split them up because what happens is they are very antagonistic towards each other. So if you do have a couple of them, they'll usually scrap with each other and
They
damage
do,
your fins.
actually.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's like flame angels, gray angels. They can live together if you put them in at the same time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't try getting a couple of grays in there and then put one in later.
Yeah.
It might not be good.
Yeah, but this guy's not. They're like the.
Yeah, they're more peaceful. Like the grays and the
Like
flames
the
are
Royal
peaceful.
Grandma.
Well, Royal Grandmas in nature live in huge groups, but once you split the group up, you can never put it back together.
Yeah.
They have to be born into it. So in a fish tank, it's 1 Royal Grandma per tank.
Okay.
And then in here, they got some skunk clownfish.
Yeah, we've got the skunk clowns, and then we've got 1 jewel damsel in there.
That is a very pretty damsel.
Yes, it is. Look at like it has the
Little
blue.
sapphire spots all
Yes,
over.
yeah. Beautiful. How big is gonna be that one?
The jewel damsels will usually get about 4 inches long.
Yeah.
Color-wise, they'll basically fade a little bit. I mean, I have seen some jewels keep the spots, but unfortunately for a lot of the damsels, the older they get, the more bland they get. So all the colors are nice. The juvenile fish have all the
Okay.
the hot colors.
Are they peaceful fish or?
They are semi-aggressive. So, like, sometimes they will, like, if you have a nice school of them, they can look really nice. But if you have, for instance, like 2 or 3, they'll usually kind of pick on each other.
Yeah, I saw the blue ones that were having in the store that they were like kind of like that.
Well, have you ever seen the golden domino?
Oh, yes.
They stay pretty all the time, and they grow so fast.
One of my favorite that usually goes unnoticed are they're very similar to the yellow-tailed blues.
Yeah.
But I think they're called the teardrops, where they have a white body with a black stripe near the tail, and then they have this little blue spot just under the eye, so it looks like they're crying.
Oh yeah.
And I've had a school of those before in my reef tank, and they're beautiful-looking fish. They're not a neon color, but just when you from far away they look like nothing, but when you come up and you look at all of the stuff going on them, phenomenal.
Okay, so that's the end of section 1.